He walks along the mountain road again. His work always starts with this little journey. There is one reason for this. It is to find good earth. Just by looking at the earth, he can tell whether the earth is good for use or not. He has lived his whole life with the earth, with the pride to make good 옹기 pottery with good earth. His name is Kim-il-man. He is now continuing the traditions of Korean 옹기 pottery with his sons. Since some time ago, people called this man the father of 옹기. The kneading of the dough with the earth taken from the mountain has started. It is a task he has done every day since he was 14 years old. His family had made 옹기 pottery as a tradition since the old days. That is why he learned 옹기 making before he could even write. Naturally, 옹기 was the only choice Kim-il-man could take in his life. A family tradition of 200 years lives in his skills and talent.
이 옹기는 흙 앙금 만치는 거, 그다음에 그걸 뒤에다가 쌓아놓고 두드려 닦는 거, 그거 뭐 생질. 이제 권한은 이거 만들어서 바깥에 내놓으면 말라가지고 재물 바르는 거. 그거 권하는데 거기 거도 내가 다 거친 거야. 그거 거치고서 이거 한 거니까는 배우려면 힘들었어요. 맨날 그거 터져야 돼요.
누가 그렇게 때려요? 선생님들이?
선생님이 그게 잘 하라고 때리는 거지 뭐 그걸 뭐 미워서 때리는 건 아닌데 그거 몇 번 의도 터지고 나서 가만히 가서 또 많이 울었어요. 한 10대 서서부터 했으니까는 그냥 울다가 또 와서 하는 거야.
To him, 옹기 making is not a work done alone. He has 4 sons. As Kim-il-man naturally learned 옹기 making from his father, his sons are also walking the same road of life as their father. Kim Song-ho is his first son. He is a son who has well obeyed and best understood the will of his father. Since a little child, he was the one in charge of all the difficult chores.
뭐 일들 가지고 뭐 학교 갔다 오면 보는 게 뭡니까? 맨날 이런 거 흙에 나가서 놀고 또 흙이 또 좋더라고 또.
However, the younger sons were a little bit different from the eldest.
전 때려주기도 안 하려고 했어요, 이거를.
왜?
왜냐면 제 앞날이 보이잖아요. 고생한다는 거. 예, 그리고 저도 한 2번 정도 나갔다 들어왔어, 집에. 근데 막상 나가보니까는 제가 또 마땅히 할 게 없어. 결국 저의 성격에는 옹기가 맞더라고. 이거 저는 좀 그래요. 왜냐면 옹기 같은 경우는 힘들 때 힘들고 그 힘든 만큼 또 매력이 있어요. 근데 다른 일은 없더라고. 그래갖고
Ever since working with his sons, Il-man has found joy in his heart with the belief that 옹기 making can continue as a tradition in his family. Currently, Il-man makes all the difficult and large-scale pieces, and his sons make all the small and less difficult pieces. There is something in Il-man's 옹기 that no one else can imitate. It is because his 옹기 is made through a strict traditional method. The reason he insists on traditional methods of making 옹기 is related to how 옹기 used to be used since the old days. 옹기 is pottery made of earthen clay and baked in fire. Being large in size and roughly shaped, it was an object used by the common people. As one can tell from its size, 옹기 was used as a storage pot to store various food, especially fermented food since the old days. In order to well ferment food, 옹기 must be made of good materials, and its process of making must also be outstanding. The shapes and patterns of onggi differ from region to region.
물론 옹기하고 도자기하고는 많이 다르죠. 첫째, 그 태토, 흙이나 이런 거에 있어서 성분, 입자가 굵기 때문에 우리가 흔히 말하는 숨을 쉰다고 얘기하죠. 그래서 다른 도자기나 이런 그릇에 비해서 발효식품이나 씨앗 보관이나 이런 것을 하기에 용이하게 되어 있습니다. 그리고 지금
However, one of the reasons Ilman could concentrate on simple onggi making was because he lives in the region of Yeoju. Since the old days, Yeoju was a place where everyday ceramic ware and pottery was well developed. In order to maximize onggi's purpose of storing and fermenting food, Ilman uses a manual spinning wheel instead of an electric one. Keeping up the traditional way of making onggi takes double the hard work and sacrifices.
이걸 다 마무리를 지어야지. 마무리가 이게 있다 놓으면 바삭 말랐고 뭐가 돼요?
Once he concentrates on making onggi, Ilman keeps his place and doesn't leave until the work is completed. He put the kneaded dough on his wheel, and little by little he gives height to his onggi and makes it shape. Now the shape is almost formed. Once the shape is completed, the patterns must be put on. The patterns are not unique or elaborate, but a taste of simplicity of the common people can be found in the patterns he makes.
하나 들어. 빨리 뛰어. 빨리빨리 한 개 더 만들지. 그러마.
The onggi of about 1 meter in height is finally completed. Due to its large size, it is difficult to make, and moving it requires great care.
자, 우쳐. 그 옆으로 가도 돼, 상관없어. 꽂자.
However, the more difficult it is to make, the more worthwhile a job it is.
이 불을 놓은 거라 이 습기가 있기 때문에 그 터져요. 그래서 다 닦아내는 거예요.
Ilman's onggi is representative of the onggi from the central regions of Korea. Onggi from the central regions is sharp in shape, and the mouth is made comparably large so that much sunlight can go inside. However, apart from such regional characteristics, Ilman's onggi is a special living organism that breathes, thanks to its traditional method of making. As soon as his wheelwork is finished, Ilman hurriedly starts another task. It is the task of making glaze. The glaze is also made with traditional methods.
이 덩어리를 다 깨가지고 물을 먹은 다음에 이게 하는 거예요.
The work is very time-consuming and detailed. Finally, grinding clay and water that has been well kept for a few days must be mixed and filtered many times. And then mixed well together. Only such glaze can give birth to true good onggi. With Ilman's care, the precious ash water is completed.
야, 이게 쓰면 안 되는 거야, 인마. 이렇게 돼야 되는 거야. 이게 밑에가 무겁다는 거야. 아, 이거 얇다.
When applying the glaze in the bottom of the onggi must be wiped off well. Only then can the onggi breathe. As the onggi is glazed, the third son draws on the patterns. The patterns are essential to give onggi decorativeness as well as to give it breathing holes.
그게 지금은 유액이라고 흔히 부르지만 옛날서부터는 잿물이에요. 잿은 집재는 안 되고 집에서 뗀 거 보들보들한 거 이렇게 만져봐서 매끈해야 돼. 거칠거칠한데 안 되고 흙도 보들보들한 거 이렇게 침을 봐서 이렇게 만져보면 매끈매끈해야 돼. 그래 그거를 이제 재 하나에다가 흙을 3개를 넣는가 4개를 넣는가 그거 다 달라요. 지방마도 그 자기 특색에 맞춰 가기 때문에 지금 우리 막내 아들이 했는데 이 밑에가 무겁다는 거야. 이게 물에 담그면은 이렇게 일으으면은 이 밑에가 무거운 거고 밑에가 가보면 아래 중량이 딱 맞아서 팍 돌아야 되는데 약간 들리는 거야. 그래서 내가 얘기한 거예요. 이건 밑에가 무겁다. 이건 거짓말을 안 하는 거예요. 사람은 거짓말해도. 그래서 딱 해보면은 잘 만드는 거 못 만드는 거 다 나타나요. 그리고 요것도 나타지면 가마꿀의 고수도 차이가 나요. 초보자 만드는 거 하고 전문가 만드는 거 고수도 판별이 나요. 이게 2개, 3개 이렇게 축 쌓아올려도.
As the work is finished, Ilman hurriedly goes off to somewhere. Since some time ago, Ilman practices archery whenever he has time. But it is not a leisure activity or a hobby. By making onggi in a small space for so many years, his shoulders had become stiff and difficult to move. So archery is a kind of physical therapy for his shoulders. It is the day to put the onggis into the kiln. The workshop is full of onggi. The onggi kiln is a lot larger than ordinary kilns used for other ceramics. The kiln was made by Ilman and his sons when they moved here to Yeoju. It is so large that in order to fill it all up, one needs to work for more than 3 to 4 months. That is why the kiln is heated only 3 to 4 times a year. However, the most important task of making onggi is this kiln baking process. That is why Ilman takes care of all the details for this process. He works with care as he puts stones on the bottom of the pots to give them balance. If the balance is not made, all the work will be wasted. Once the kiln is all filled with onggis, the youngest son, Young-ho, blocks the opening of the kiln with earth clay. It is to help the fire to burn well. The front opening of the kiln must be blocked as well. The front is blocked by stacking earth bricks and rubbing on earth clay. Third son Chong-ho takes charge of this task. Chong-ho mainly does the work of modernizing old-style onggi pottery. He also does some other special work as well. His wish is to systematically organize Ilman's experience and works. Making a pottery making class is a part of this project. However, Ilman isn't pleased with him saying that those who are too well learned think too much, so they can't make good onggi. It seems Chong-ho has especially many thoughts in his head today. It is because his wife gave birth to a daughter just the day before. However, he cannot go and see the mother and daughter because of the kiln work. With many thoughts, Chong-ho's room is bright until late at night. The next morning, a joyful guest came to visit.
예, 지금 왔어요.
부상 많았지?
저 끝났습니까?
잘 끝났어. 그래, 이번에 또 했구먼.
The guest is welcomed earnestly. Daniel is an American student who had learned 옹기 making from Ilman a few years ago. He often comes here to learn more about 옹기. This student who says making 옹기 is so difficult is a precious pupil to Ilman.
So I go to school at a university in Seoul, so my professors there introduced me to Mr. Kim and the 옹기 making place here because it's quite famous. Oh, he's a wonderful man, wonderful person. All the people here have been so kind to me in the month that I was here. We had wonderful food every day, and I learned a great deal. I learned a lot about Korean pottery and Korean culture as well.
Having stayed here for around a month before, Daniel loves the food here. He had become used to living here. Having met Ilman after quite a while, Daniel starts making 옹기 himself as well. Being a former engineer, he had always wanted to do some work that required using the hands, and 옹기 was a great work for that. Daniel's passion for 옹기 was exceptional. Ilman does not take in many pupils, but after seeing Daniel's hard work and great will, Ilman taught him all there is to learn about 옹기 with great care. That is why Ilman came to see how Daniel is doing, even though he has work left to do in the kiln.
많이 잊었어요.
이걸 이렇게 써놓고 해야지, 얕으면은.
Ilman even takes care of Daniel's working conditions as well.
거기 앉아서.
Daniel is so thankful to his master. Daniel's hands move quickly as to learn the most he can.
이 위에 또 올라가요? 하나 또 올라가요? 고마? 하나 더. 하나 더?
모르겠어요. 선생님 생각 어떠세요?
지금은 아가리가 너무 넓어요. 한 개 더 올라가요. 아가리 요만해야 돼요. 아가리가 이렇게 되면 옹기가 안 돼. 하나 더 해야 돼.
Ilman's eyes are accurate as he looks at Daniel's work. However, his face tells his deep affection toward the stranger from abroad, trying his best to learn the most Korean thing.
요거를 떼내야 돼요. 요거 됐어.
His affection is expressed through detailed teaching of the smallest things.
잘라버려. 됐어. 이렇게 하고 이거 두드리고 전 잡아야 돼.
And after some time, Daniel's 옹기 is almost complete. Now it is the time to light the kiln. However, it starts to rain. They wish for the rain to stop as they stack the firewood in front of the kiln's entrance. It is always Kim Il-man who lights the first fire. Earth is important for making 옹기, but fire is even more important. The first fire is especially the one that decides the success or failure of the kiln work. The rain keeps on drifting. Why today? The weather is very important for the day of the kiln work. Ilman has a loss of words at the rain that doesn't stop. He only prays in his heart that the rain would stop soon. As the fire is almost on the kiln, the rain stopped. Ilman visits his father's grave. On the day of the kiln work, he always pays a visit to this place. It is an old habit to ask for help for the kiln work to be done well.
아버지, 어머니, 오늘은 옹기를 놓습니다. 요번에 잘 좀 되게 해주세요. 많이 좀 도와주세요. 우리 셋째가 요번엔 처음 나는데 딸을 낳았어요. 섭해지면 많이 좀 용서 좀 해주세요. 막내는 아들을 둘 낳고 지금 마음을 좀 잡아갖고 일을 착실히 하고 있으니까 걱정 마세요. 앞으로 잘 될 테니까 좀 도와주세요.
Before passing away, Ilman's father had requested that his grave be made next to the kiln. He would be looking at Ilman's kiln work under the ground. A small wine drinking is prepared in front of the warm fire of the kiln.
이거 힘을 뭉쳐야 되는 거예요. 그래야 살아나지. 지금 허틀어지면은 죽어 우리가. 어떤 일이 있어도 서로다가 참고 힘을 모을 때라고. 그래 우리가 여기서 살아나가지 못 살아나가.
우리가 들어가지고 전통이 뭔지 들어가지고 그걸
Kim Il-man has made onggi with the traditional methods that had been passed down from his ancestors. His wish is that his sons also continue to make onggi in the same traditional ways. However, his sons think differently and wish to mass-produce onggi when they get the chance. Daniel consoles Il-man's sad heart.
아니요.
많이 배웠어요.
나는 우리 아들들하고 비슷비슷하니까는 좋아. 그러니까는 배울 용기가 있으면 아무 때 와. 오면은 나 하는 거든 해줄게.
Their love for onggi goes on as the night gets deeper. It is late at night after the wine drinking has ended. Within the deep darkness, Il-man goes somewhere. He goes to the kiln.
이거 소나무라 불이 너무 괄구나. 불이 너무 잘.
When there is kiln work, he cannot take his mind off it even one moment.
이 피운 불이 꺼지면 안 돼요. 꾸준히 이게 도수가 차곡차곡 올라가야 되는데 잠을 여기서 계속 자고 낮이나 밤에나 지키고 있어야 돼. 나는 8개 해내려왔는데 이거를 좀 더 연구를 해가지고 우리 자식들한테 이거 물려주고 싶은 마음이 있는데 그게 잘 될는지 모르겠습니다. 노력은 많이 하고 있는데 이거 또 운이 많이 따라야 돼요.
After the kiln work was finished, he visits his eldest son's house to fulfill his biggest wish. His daughter-in-law's skills have improved so much as to be able to make small everyday objects herself. His first questions to her is about his grandchildren.
애들은 다 되었어. 쌍둥이 애들.
저기 있는데 집에?
쌍둥이 애들을 노는 시간에 자꾸 가르쳐야 돼. 걔들 지금 배워야 된다 걔들. 걔들 안 가르칠 거네? 옹기.
애들이
싫다래?
Does his daughter-in-law not want her children to continue making onggi? The 200 years of onggi making tradition cannot end here. With this firm belief, Il-man sits down with his grandchildren. The world may not recognize him, but his great passion and wish for onggi will continue to burn towards generations to come.